Take a look around you right now. You've probably got a metal spoon in a drawer, maybe a plastic toy on a shelf, a wooden chair you're sitting on. They all seem completely different, don't they? But what if I told you they all share a fundamental secret? Today, we're going to uncover the one thing that connects every single object in our world. I mean, our lives are just filled with this incredible variety of things, right? Each one has its own purpose, its own feel, but just under the surface, there's this hidden connection. What is the one thing that unites every single object you see right here? It feels like a trick question, doesn't it? A clay pot, a plastic ball, a metal key. But the answer is actually surprisingly simple, and I promise it's going to change the way you look at the world around you. So let's start by breaking things down. To understand the really big picture, we got to start small. So let's zoom in on a simple everyday scene. Just a couple of students with their new school supplies. So meet Gulen and Sharet. Their school supplies, a plain paper notebook, one covered in plastic, and a pen that's made of both plastic and metal. They actually illustrate a huge idea. Different objects are made of different stuff. And that stuff has a name, of course. We call it a material. Paper, wood, plastic, metal, those are all materials. And here's the key idea. Every single object in our world is made from one or more of them. This is our first big step to cracking the code. Okay, so everything is made of materials. Got it. But there are so many different kinds. How do we even begin to organize them? Well, the answer lies in a really powerful process that, honestly, we all use every single day, probably without even thinking about it. Imagine you're faced with this jumble of objects. How would you bring some order to the chaos? Your first instinct might be to group them by shape, right? Or maybe by color. That simple act of sorting is literally the foundation of how we make sense of the world. And this process has a name. It's called classification. It's how we organize everything, from animals in biology to the elements on the periodic table. And when it comes to materials, we classify them based on their unique properties. So, what exactly are these properties? Let's take a closer look at the characteristics that help us tell one material from another, and more importantly, help us decide what we can do with them. Let's start with the most obvious one, appearance. Some materials, like the metal in a gold ring, are lustrous. They shine. Others, like wood or paper, are just dull. This simple visual cue is our first clue to a material's identity, and it's exactly why we make jewelry out of gold and not, wood. Next up is hardness. A stone is hard. A sponge is soft. Easy enough. But here's the thing. Hardness is relative. Think about rubber. It's definitely harder than a sponge, but it's way softer than iron. So it's all about comparison, and it's why we build houses from stone and not from sponges. Okay, now this is fun. A simple game of hide and seek is the perfect way to understand our next property. The seeker can't see the kids behind the wall or the tree at all, but they can see a blurry little outline behind that frosted glass. That difference in what you can see reveals a key property of materials, transparency. So let's break it down. A clear window is transparent. Light goes right through. The frosted glass door is translucent. Light gets scattered, so you can't see clearly. And the wall and the tree, they're opaque. They block the light completely. It's all about how materials mess with light, and it's why we want transparent windows in our living rooms, but opaque walls for our bathrooms. This question really gets to the heart of why properties matter so much. I mean, you can't use a cloth to hold water, right? It just doesn't have the right properties for the job. We choose a material for a specific purpose based entirely on its unique characteristics. And speaking of water, the way it interacts with materials reveals another absolutely crucial property. Let's see what happens when we mix a few common things with a little H2O. Just look at this. On the left, salt just completely vanishes in the water. Poof, gone. But on the right, the sand just sinks to the bottom and hangs out. This one simple experiment shows you the difference between soluble and insoluble materials perfectly. So, materials that dissolve in water, like salt and sugar, we call them soluble. The ones that don't, like sand, are insoluble. This simple test tells us a ton about a material's properties. And it's the reason sugar sweetens your coffee, but a spoonful of sand it just ruins it. All right, so we've seen how properties like appearance, hardness, and solubility help us tell materials apart. But Are there any properties that all materials have in common? The answer is yes. And it's the key to understanding the secret of everything. The first universal property is that everything takes up space. When these students put their bags on their chairs, they can't sit down anymore. Why? Pretty obvious, right? Because the bags are occupying that space. And this is true for every single physical object in the universe. And the amount of space an object takes up, that has a name too. We call it its volume. So the glass on the right has more water in it, which means it has a greater volume. This super simple concept is one of the two pillars of what we're about to uncover. The second universal property is mass. Mass is just the amount of stuff that's in an object. We measure it with a scale. Everything you can touch, from a giant heavy rock to a tiny light feather, has mass. And there it is. That's the answer to our very first question. Anything that has volume, that takes up space, and has mass is called matter. That clay pot, that plastic ball, that metal key, at their absolute core, they are all the same thing, matter. This is the secret of everything. From the chair you're sitting on to the actual air you're breathing right now, it is all matter. It's the one thing that unites every single physical object in our universe. Pretty amazing, right? And all this brings us to a final, really crucial point. We choose materials for their properties. Plastic is a perfect example. It's a modern marvel because it's lightweight, strong, and super cheap. But its durability, the very property that makes it so useful, has also turned it into a global curse. And that raises a critical question for all of us. How do we design the materials of the future to have all the properties we need without the ones that end up causing harm?